Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent appeared before lawmakers on Capitol Hill today. It didn't go particularly well for the Democratic lawmakers, who were repeatedly embarrassed. Here's some of the fun highlights.
Secretary Bessent, this is the first time we've met. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. We actually met one New Year's Eve in the Bahamas. And I was...
He didn't make an impression.
Why don't I remember that?
Well, you were much better at the electric slide than I was.
And so what you did was you let these strangers into our Treasury with access to all of the data, all of the personnel information, and you just opened the door. Why'd you do that?
No, ma'am. They were Treasury employees.
Specifically, which countries are you close to striking deals with?
I'm sorry, Congresswoman, but that would not benefit the United States.
No. I'm asking you a question based on the statement that you made on CNBC.
And I am telling you that it would be detrimental to the interest of the United States for me to answer that question.
Why will that be detrimental?
Because as the negotiations may still be in process as we speak, as we are not at the end of the week yet, I am sure that you through your question, would not want to compromise the U.S. negotiating.
Reclaiming my time.
Who was the president in 2024?
One believes President Biden.
One believes? You one of those non-believers that the election, the American people didn't vote?
I am not.
You're not? You said one believes?
Mr. Secretary, do you know what a car seat is?
I have 2 children, yes.
I mean, you can't put this in a sitcom. And then FBI Director Kash Patel appeared on the Hill before lawmakers, and he schooled former Trump impeachment manager Madeleine Dean over the weaponization of justice. This is a good moment. Take a look.
Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well,
you want to know what I'm doing to fix it?
That. Let me move on.
Well, you should read the book because there's no enemies list on that book.
So
there are people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people, and they were rightly called out. And you should give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
Ouch. And breaking tonight, as we just said, President Trump just posted on Truth Social, teasing a press conference 10 a.m. tomorrow in the Oval Office concerning, quote, a major trade deal, which he says will be the first of many. Here with more, former Speaker of the House, Newt Gingrich. You call him the crazy party. I wouldn't dare argue with you. There was one other moment. When Kash Patel was there, you are failing at what you're trying to do. Your reaction?
Well, first of all, it's very unfair. President Trump picks brilliant people. They know what they're doing. They do their homework. They actually have achieved real things. And they're up against a group of people who are lazy, out of touch with reality, don't do their homework, and set themselves up to look like fools. I think it's a very unfair fight, and I think that at some point, those Democrats who are left who are serious are going to say to their colleagues, you know, if you can't do your homework, don't do the hearing. Don't put yourself up to be ridiculed. Because, I mean, Scott Bessent, who's clearly dramatically smarter than any Democrat on that panel. And Patel, who I've known for years, is not only smart, he's really tough. See, I mean, a Democrat who wants to pick a fight with Kash Patel is a person who needs counseling.
When Gregory Meeks asked about, well, who's President 2024, one believes President Biden. Clearly, Meeks did not get it, that, you know, we really don't know whether Joe was running the show or not. And that might have been, that might have taken the cake all day. I thought that.
No, look, if you watch all those patterns, these people are 3 or 4 steps slow. I mean, it's like watching a basketball game where on every pass it goes by them because they didn't quite notice the ball was coming. And so you really have a total mismatch. This goes on over and over again. I mean, I've watched a number of the cabinet officers, and the people they're up against, they're not getting trained. Their staffs are not doing a good job. They're not prepared. I don't think they go through any kind of internal practice. They just show up and think, gosh, I'm an elected official. Look how smart I'll be. And then they just, you know, as you just showed, they just embarrass themselves and remind the country that the Democratic Party has degenerated dramatically.
Neither Democrats or the media seem to want to understand President Trump. And they revert to form and they just go back to hating Donald Trump. They don't understand he's a disruptor. Perfect case in point, for 50, 60 years, America's been ripped off, taken advantage of by friend and foe, countries putting massive tariffs on us. And he says, you know what, I'm going to challenge the status quo. Very Trumpian, right? Okay. It results in $8 trillion in commitments in bringing manufacturing to this country. So in steel and aluminum and semiconductors and automobiles and pharmaceuticals. Good for national security. Here's the interesting part to me is Donald Trump takes on the establishment, the institutional way of thinking, and wow, he's going to have his first big trade deal announcement. And, oh, China decided to meet with Bessent sometime this weekend in Geneva. I'm beginning to think that maybe Donald Trump got the world's attention. And, whoa, now Goldman Sachs all of a sudden sees GDP growth of, what, 2.4% when they had projected negative GDP growth. Maybe they don't know as much as Donald Trump.
Well, look, I mean, I just did a newsletter that go out from Gingrich 360 on Friday, predicting that by next summer, we'll be in the early stages of what will be called the Trump boom. If you look at everything he's doing, if they can pass this big bill this spring, which is absolutely the key to everything, if they can get these trade deals worked out, if they continue to get, remember, he's got the first $8 trillion in commitments in the first 100 days. He's going to get another 3, 4, 5 trillion in the second 100 days. The level of investment in America by next spring is going to be so enormous that this will be the largest building boom in American history. And at some point, that's all going to catch up. Now, remember, none of these people are news media. They're all propaganda. They're all the left wing. They all hate Trump. I mean, it's like one of the articles I saw said that if Senator Fetterman of Pennsylvania had considered voting for Hegseth for Secretary of Defense, that was an indication of his mental illness. Now, that tells you how sick much of the mainstream media is. It's all propaganda. It's all lies. And at some point, the country's just going to write them off. I don't think they can change internally. But at some point, the country's going to go, oh, I got a job. Prices are coming down. Everything's pretty good. These guys are clowns.
Okay, back where we started. Mr. Speaker, thank you. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.